A Queen's Reckoning by Hunter Diaz. Chapter 1. A Whispered Threat. I stepped into my room, and my ladies-in-waiting welcomed me with my purple velvety robe. My room, which I've admired since the first day I arrived from France, contains everything I've ever wanted. The walls were painted with religious symbols, the bed was draped with red fabric, and the Tudor rose above the bed frame. The bed was plush to the touch, and created a sense of warmth as it overwhelmed my body. My favorite part of the bedroom was the beautiful view from the balcony, overlooking the countryside, where you could hear the birds chirp and the hoofs of the horses passing by. My lady-in-waiting, Jane, prepared me for dinner. She was my favorite lady-in-waiting, not only because she did my hair beautifully, but because she had the best gossip in town. "Queen Anne, you look radiant today," she said with a smile, as she clasped my pearl necklace around my neck. The necklace had a large golden bead pendant that stood for my last name, Boleyn. The bee rested above my collarbone, with 3 pearls hanging from the pendant. "Oh, dear Jane, thank you, but please do tell me about the court gossip." I smiled, eager to hear what she had to say. "Well, rumor has been brewing that Lady Charlotte was seen dallying with Sir Thomas, despite her marriage to Lord Anthony. It's quite the whisper. I heard Charlotte was dallying with Count Edward." "Interesting." Jane suddenly seemed vexed. She paused for a moment before continuing. "Although, Queen Anne, I've heard some whispers about you and your brother George." My face twisted in confusion. "Me and my brother? Whatever are you speaking of?" Jane began to whisper, for fear someone would hear her. "Someone saw your brother leaving your bedchambers late last night." My heart skipped a beat, words rushing out in fear. "That's preposterous," I snapped. I tend to think before speaking. I calmed myself before my next word. "My guards were outside their post the entire evening. Whoever started this rumor is mistaken." Jane's face was pale as she looked down and continued to whisper. "Of course, Queen Anne. I meant no offense. I believe I'm ready for dinner now with the king. You may go, Jane." As Jane walked away, I watched as her silhouette disappeared into the doorway. I realized that George had to be more cautious of his whereabouts. If he were seen leaving my chambers again, the rumor would become undeniable. At dinner, Henry sat tall at the head of the table. His presence brought a sense of arrogance into any room he walked into, which was often mistaken for authority. We briefly spoke of politics, but nearly for the entirety of dinner, we sat in silence. In our early days of marriage, we would be lost in conversation, talking for hours at hand. But ever since I miscarried our son, Henry's eyes were filled with resentment towards me. Henry grunted, a signal he was finished with his meal. The servant whisked his and my plate away from the table. "Thank you," I said to the servant on behalf of both of us. Henry's eyes darted towards me. "You do not have to speak to them, you realize. I simply believe in showing gratitude where it's due." He rolled his eyes at me, never acknowledging the help or showing them any grace, though this was not unusual behavior for him. "Henry, the lamb tasted exceptional this evening." "Yes, that is because I traded out those farmers. Those old farmers couldn't meet my demands." "Your demands? Do you not suppose that's a bit harsh on the townsfolk? How do you expect them to make ends meet?" He rolled his eyes at me again, a habit he recently picked up any time I said something that didn't please him. "Don't trouble me with the tribulations of the peasants. I only care about the doings inside these castle walls. And Anne, there's a whisper about your brother leaving your chamber last night." However did this reach him so quickly? It did not matter. However, this is not a rumor I want others to get a hold of, especially the members of the Privy Council. They already have a distaste for me, waiting for the moment I make a mistake so they can ruin me. They are constantly whispering something into Henry's ear. I look away, focusing my attention on the cup of wine, tracing my finger around the rim. That's curious. Jane heard the same thing, and yet I was asleep in my bedchambers all night. His voice became more stern. Yet, some say otherwise. I meet his gaze again, my eyes steady. "Henry, you must believe me. These rumors are false. We must further investigate these lies against the crown, for this is an act of treason." Henry stood up from his chair, his expression hardening. "We will discuss later. I must retire now." As Henry walked away, my heartbeat quickened. I must squander these rumors. If Lady Jane has heard of them, and now Henry, it's only a matter of time before the whispers reach the entire court. I must find George and warn him. Once I arrived at my bedchamber, I wrapped myself in a thick, black cloak, yanking the hood over my face, as I slipped into the hidden tunnel behind my tapestry. The tunnel felt never-ending. It was cold, the air was damp, and the dreary stone walls echoed with every step. Holding a candle before me, the flame flickered against the walls from the draft. I rushed down to the tunnel, knowing I couldn't be gone for long, before someone had noticed. At last, I reached the end of the tunnel, only to meet the stairs. As I picked up my dress, I went up the stairs, entering the top of the tower, where my brother George waited. "George, dear brother George, are you here?" He walked into his bedroom, with a confused look on his face. "Yes, dear sister, what is it?" "I thought we were not meeting till tomorrow night." "That's just it. We can no longer meet. Someone saw you late last night leaving my chambers. Word has gone to my lady-in-waiting and Henry, and I'm sure some others as well. The rumors have only begun, and I fear they will only go stronger. By the end of the week, the entire court will be thinking we're having an affair, unless we stay out of sight." George raised his eyebrow, with a smirk across his face. He found the situation amusing. "So I've been caught playing this part of the secret lover, have I? Oh, what a scandal. I've never been the talk of the court." He let out a laugh, before adding a hint of disgust. "Though, does the court surely believe I'm involved with my own sister? How utterly ridiculous. It's revolting, truly." I locked eyes with him, my patience thinning. As a child, he had always been mischievous, but this was not the proper time. Hoping my sharp gaze was enough to show how serious I was, I continued, while ignoring his remark. "George, the court hasn't gotten a hold of the rumors. Yet." George, realizing I was not going to humor him, released a sigh, falling back into his chair. "You have all my elixirs. How will I perform spells without my supplies?" "I'll leave the elixirs for you in the tunnel, for you to collect. It's the only way." "But Anne—" "No buts, George. Must I remind you? The king is suspicious. I try to convince him it's nothing but nonsense, although there's only so much I can do. In no time, the Privy Council will use these rumors to poison Henry's mind. They will do everything in their power to rid me. They will twist this into an affair, an incestuous affair. So for now, you must not return to the castle. We cannot afford to be seen together. We can only hope these rumors die down." "Yes, dear Anne. Until then, I shall remain in the shadows." "You must, or this shall be our undoing."